One of the new features of Sony Vegas Pro 13 is that it enables you to connect up an iPad via your Wi-Fi network for two reasons. Firstly, to act as a control surface, so you can actually play back your timeline, stop, pause, rewind, all by swiping on the iPad. It also enables you to take projects away on the iPad so you can watch them elsewhere, away from your editing environment, and once again drop markers on them, make notes and so on that will sync up when you get back to your edit station. So the purpose of this video is to show you how to configure an iPad to work with Sony Vegas Pro. The first thing you need to do is to ensure that external control is enabled in Vegas. That's one of the choices under the Options menu, so make sure that that's ticked. Once you've done that, you can go down to the bottom of the list and click on Preferences, then in the panel that comes up, click on External Controls and Automation. Under that heading, click on the drop-down box and select Vegas Pro Connect. Click on Add and it drops into the list of active control devices. Now right-click on it and select Configure. There isn't actually any configuration to do really, but you do need to note down the two things it's telling you here. One is the IP address of the computer you're using Vegas on, and Vegas tries to work it out for itself and may give you a list of possibilities, so you need to know which one it is. If there's just one, write that one down. Below is a port number, which Vegas fills in with a default value. You may need this number to configure your firewall, but for the moment just write it down. Now with both of those numbers taken note of, click OK, apply the change, and OK that, and now go to your iPad. The first thing to do on the iPad is to download the VP Connect app, fire it up, and the first time it comes up with a fairly empty screen, so tap on Set up Vegas Pro Connection. Now the app wants to know the details you just wrote down from your Vegas screen, but first give this connection a name. I'll call mine here Edit PC, as that's what I'm connecting to. Now add in the IP address from earlier, in my case 192.168.0.6. And we can see that the default port value is already in place. So let's press Try It to test the connection. Success! If this had failed, we might have had to muck about with any firewalls in place, including Windows Firewall. Back on the main screen, we have a happy green icon connected to tap on. If this was yellow and saying inactive, you probably forgot to enable external control in Vegas. When you tap the icon, you get a screen of playback controls. There's a timecode readout, a scroll bar, and underneath the usual play, stop, and so on. Finally, a row of orange markers with preset descriptions on them, which you can change. So what happens when we press play? As you'd expect, the Vegas timeline starts playing, remotely controlled from your iPad, and the timecode lists where you're up to. Tapping pause does what you'd expect, but you can also drag the on-screen scroll bar to seek through the timeline, just as if you were dragging the cursor in Vegas with a mouse. You can jump to the start or the end, or even go back and forward by single frames at a time using the appropriate icons. Now those marker icons at the bottom also enable you to drop markers onto the timeline as it plays, with the descriptions coming up as they're labelled on those icons. So check colour or edit, or even a custom marker which you can type text for on the iPad and it gets transferred to Vegas. But perhaps looking down at the iPad for the button you want when you're trying to watch the content is a little distracting. In that case, tap the hand icon on the top right. Now you have gesture-controlled playback using almost the whole screen. There's one tap for stop or start. You can tap the marker icon for a drop-down list of the options. Select one, and then when you want to put it in the timeline, just swipe your finger down. To seek through the project, use two fingers going left or right to seek backwards or forwards at great speed. You can also use three fingers to do a single frame advance, but I found it very easy to accidentally only have two fingers making contact and therefore do a fast wind instead of a frame advance. This rapidly became annoying. So that's using the iPad for control. The other feature offered is remote reviewing of your project. Now for this demo, I'm going to select a small region. You'll see why. It's because it involves a render, and I haven't got all day right now. The way it works is you go to the File menu and select Prepare for Vegas Pro Connect. You're offered the choice of the whole project or the selected region. For some reason, this feature always puts the files it creates in this specific directory. You don't seem to have a choice in the matter, it seems. So click on OK, and Vegas will start to render the project. It seems always to do it at 1280 by 720, even if you're using standard definition or full HD material. Presumably 1280 by 720 is good for iPads. Now we'll skip over the render process, and when it's done, you get this message telling you to go to your iPad. So let's do just that. Now on the iPad, just as Vegas finished rendering, your project pops onto the screen and it says tap to sync file. So tap it and the iPad downloads the rendered copy of your project. You should get a happy green tick on your project icon, so you can now tap that and go to the review screen. It's all familiar here. There's a preview window, playback controls including markers, which are also listed down the left-hand side. Those ones there are the ones I dropped in earlier in this demo. Now the idea is you can take the iPad away in order to review the video. So for the purposes of this demo, I'm simply going to disable the iPad's Wi-Fi so the iPad is disconnected from Vegas. I'll just pop it into airplane mode and the iPad becomes standalone. This is of course just for the demo. You would take the iPad away in real life. Now back in the Vegas Pro Connect app, we've still got our project, and so pressing play we can start to watch it back. We can scroll, frame advance and jump from marker to marker. As before, we can now add new markers. Remember, the iPad's not connected to Vegas at this point, so I'll just add a custom marker here. And there it is. But the clever bit comes when the iPad gets reconnected to Vegas. I'll just re-enable the Wi-Fi to make that happen, and within a few seconds the iPad talks to Vegas and synchronizes the markers on the iPad with your timeline edit. So let's just check our project in Vegas, and as you can see, there are the markers we dropped earlier, plus the new one, which was added while the iPad was disconnected. The idea, of course, is that you can take projects to show your client and make notes about changes without having to take your edit PC with you. Well, that's it for this demo of Vegas Pro Connect. I hope it was useful. If so, a click on the like button is always appreciated, and why not click on subscribe too? It's free, you know. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.